Hi, I'm Phil Redmond, and I'm going to show you how to lay herringbone brick pattern today. Before we start all that, I'm going to talk to you about what exactly are the right jobs for a herringbone brick pattern and some other aspects about it. See, a herringbone brick pattern is great for serpentine walkways or patios. Like, let's say you have a walkway through a garden or something. You don't want just a running bond joint for your patio, for your walkway. Because a running bond joint, I mean, if you don't know what that is, it's pretty standard. It's on basically what is every building you've ever seen. We have two block and then one block above it, right about the middle of that joint. That's a running bond. Now, to bring up the monotony of a running bond, I guess the brick gods created a herringbone brick pattern, which is basically taking your block at a 45-degree angle and laying that. Now, I'm getting ahead of myself, because before you do all that, you have to get the right materials for the job. You have two options. You have many options with brick. They're all different styles and shapes and for different purposes and for what you want. Like, see, these are English edge block, which they use over at South Point and some other fancier jobs. See how they have a nice pretty face, but on the other sides they have these raised up ridges. So it helps it catch along, and it's a pretty block. And now you have the other choice, which is the mortar block, and how you can tell between the different blocks is this. Between a sand paver, which is what you'll be using for a herringbone pattern or a brick walk or a walkway, and between a mortar, which you would use with a concrete base, or when you need to have something very stable like a house, or something, or a wall or a retaining wall or anything like that. So what you do is this: you lay one block sideways, and you get two of the same block and rest it on top. Once they're flush to each side, once they're flush to each edge, there shouldn't be a space in between them. Now for a mortar block, once you have them flush to each side, there's a gap between them, as you can see, about 3/8 of an inch. They're about the size of a good mortar joint. For these, you wouldn't want to do like a standard walkway without a concrete base, just laying it down. Because with this, it already has a very wide joint. So when you have sand on it and stuff in between, there'll be a lot of space for movement. So it'll be moving a lot like this. When it's tight to it, and there's sand between it, the friction doesn't move. So that what makes it better for a walkway or a patio or anything like that. Herringbone pattern is great for light foot traffic, for a good walkway or a patio, just some place that people are going to want to walk on, you want to kind of show off. See, you could either go square with a herringbone pattern, which is where you lay it kind of like this. And you keep it flush to the borders of what you're building on. Now for a patio or walkway, there's probably going to be some 4x4s along the edge. For for a square patio, there's going to be 4x4s along the edge to kind of keep all the block centered right there. Now with the square, when you go, square for a herringbone brick pattern. Square for a herringbone brick pattern. It looks good, and it's going to look good on any kind of walkway or patio. But if you want to make an interesting geometric pattern, or just something to break it up, or just kind of guide the person along the walkway, you can turn it at a bias. Now a bias is where you turn it at a 45-degree angle, just the pattern itself, and you put it like that. Now when you're running a bias, what you want to do is lay a board about 45-degree angle and get the angle right on your block. And you do it like this. Now for these herringbone brick patterns, what's going to end up happening is along the edges, because you're running it at this different kind of setup, there's going to be gaps and spaces, a lot like this one right here, which is with a lot of gaps and spaces, which is where you would use a half cut. Now you're going to use a half cut if you're running square. Now for a bias one, you're going to have to cut a 45-degree angle in these half cuts, which would look like that. Any professional mason or contractor will have his own tools on hand to bias stuff, but if you're just a regular homeowner, you can go out and rent a saw. They can rent them at Home Depot or Lowe's. And when you're running a saw like that, what you want to do when you're cutting brick is have a good saw. And what you want to do is at the base of the saw have about 1 inch of water, so it keeps the blade wet, and so the blade runs through the water and cuts the brick. The water will keep it from overheating and messing up your cut. Also, it keeps the blade nice and healthy and shiny and ready to use for other days. So, I don't know what else to say.
6 minutes and 6 seconds.
Okay, that's enough.
Okay. Here, why don't you play it back and see what you think of it?
Was it good?
Yeah. You hit on all the